Morning, everyone. Welcome. We're going to continue on our study of the impact of tariffs on Canadian business, companies, and workers. We've had quite a few meetings. A very productive last Tuesday. We had witnesses, and we also had the Minister of Finance in the afternoon. Today, we're going to have some officials with us, from two departments. One is from Canada Border Services Agency, and the other is the Department of Finance. Welcome, folks. So you know the way we roll here. You guys do presentations, and then we'll have dialogue with the MPs. Missing a couple of them, but I think we can get started right away. And if Border Services wants to start off, Mr. Band and Mr. Layton, is it?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Yeah.
Et bonjour aux membres.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to greet the committee members. My name is Doug Bennett, and I'm accompanied today by Alexander, responsible for our sector, facilitates the Canadian commercial law, international law within CBSA, including the determining duties on imported goods. We also check compliance and programs that encourage Canadian companies to be more competitive on behalf of Finance Canada. Also, our sectors looks on special measures, importation measures, as we say in English, the Special Import Measures Act. This helps to protect Canadians producers confronted to foreign competition against prejudice caused by dumping and subsidizing of imported goods.
Officials who have appeared, the U.S. imposition of tariffs on steel and aluminum imports has increased the importance of protecting Canadian producers against the diversion of some of these goods into our market. With access to the U.S. market restricted by the tariffs, foreign steel exporters are seeking alternative markets, including ours. The CBSA has certainly seen an increase in our anti-dumping program activity, and we expect this to continue. So far this year, CBSA has initiated 18 investigations of anti-dumping or subsidy, compared to an average of 12 in previous years. 16 of those 18 are related to steel. We've assessed over $18 million in anti-dumping and countervailing duties so far, and that's compared to a high in 2017-18 of $33 million at the course of the entire year. In recognition of the importance of this program to Canada's trade remedy system, the CBSA is hiring additional trade officers with new funding provided in order to conduct investigations and compliance monitoring activities, including those related to steel and aluminum. In addition, new anti-circumvention investigation authorities were introduced to further strengthen our trade enforcement, allowing the CBSA to identify and address companies attempting to avoid anti-dumping duties. Two other programs that, as the Director General, I'm responsible for and would like to highlight are the Duties Relief Program and the Duty Drawback Program, which I know have been subject of discussion among the committee members. Both are regulated programs administered by the CBSA on behalf of Finance Canada. While our trade remedy system helps preserve a fair and open trading environment for domestic producers, the DRP and drawback programs support the competitiveness of Canadian companies in the global marketplace. Through these programs, qualified companies can import goods without paying duties on the condition that the imported goods are exported within a specified time frame. The Duty Relief Program, or DRP as we call it, allows eligible companies to import goods without paying duties at the time of importing. The duty drawback is somewhat different. It allows companies to claim a refund or a drawback after the fact, once those goods that have been imported are ultimately exported. Both programs are valued and are well used by industry. Last year, fiscal 27-18, the Duties Relief Program had 402 participants who benefited from approximately $385 million in duty relief. We processed over 3,000 drawback claims from over 1,300 claimants, and collectively under the drawback program, they received $135 million in duty drawback. Since the imposition of Canada's surtax on the U.S. in July of this year, the demand for these programs has increased significantly. In response, we've received 73 applications to the Duty Relief Program, of which 36 licenses have already been approved, In a typical year, we would get, on average, between 20 to 25 new license applications under the Duty Relief Program. Given the pressures facing Canadian business, we've internally reallocated resources to meet this surge in demand. And as a result, we've cut the time it takes to process a DRP license in half, from our service standard of 90 days to 45 days. While we've received a very small number of drawback claims to date, the few that we have received are being processed in less than a third of the allocated 90-day time frame, and we're doing it in approximately 23 days. While these programs are not a panacea for Canadian importers, they offer some assistance to qualifying companies in what is, as we know, a dynamic and rapidly changing trade environment. Finally, I want to mention that the CBSA has worked hard to provide businesses with information they need to comply with the surtax. We've updated our website, issued customs notices, used social media in the days before and after the announcement, and we received over 85,000 views of that material on our website. Our Border Information Service hotline responded to over 500 calls on the surtax within the first week of implementation alone. We've also been meeting with industry associations on how to comply, including questions regarding the administration of the DRP and the drawback programs. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président, pour m'avoir donné l'occasion de vous parler aujourd'hui.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, Chair, and we would be pleased to answer the committee members' questions.
We're going to go to the Department of Finance, and we have Mr. Alley and Madame Gobier. You guys got the floor. Go ahead.
Merci de nous avoir invités à témoigner.
Thank you for inviting us to testify before this committee. My name is Patrick Halley, and I'm the Director General of the International Trade Policy Division of the Department of Finance. I'm joined by my colleague Michel Gauvier, Senior Director of Trade Rules in the same division. The Department of Finance is responsible for three subjects. The customs tariff, which establishes tariff rates for goods imported into Canada, as well as numerous provisions concerning different import situations, authorities for imposing surtaxes, and authorities for providing relief from payment of duties. The Special Import Measures Act, which sets out and governs Canada's trade remedy system concerning anti-dumping and countervailing duties. And finally, the Canadian International Trade Tribunal Act, which establishes the tribunal, the CITT, and its functions, including the conduct of safeguard inquiries. As such, the Department has a primary role in import policy and works closely with the Canada Border Services Agency, Global Affairs Canada, and many other departments and agencies that are involved in Canada's trade policy. The Department is also closely involved in steel and aluminum matters, including import policy, to initiatives with fiscal implications, and more broadly, the impacts that issues facing these industries can have on the Canadian economy.
Tariffs on steel and aluminum by the U.S. earlier this year has presented important challenges for the affected industries. Before the U.S. extended its tariff measures to Canadian steel and aluminum products, the government announced a number of measures aimed at avoiding these tariffs from being imposed. The government strengthened Canada's trade enforcement regime, and the Department of Finance led on a number of these initiatives, which I will explain shortly. Secondly, once the U.S. imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, the department had a key role in implementing the government's response. It is through the customs tariff that Canada's countermeasures against U.S. steel, aluminum, and other imports were imposed effective on July the 1st. And related to this, where companies have sought relief from the surtaxes through remission, it is also a process that falls within the department's responsibility. Finally, the imposition of tariffs by the U.S. on all sources of steel imports have created a problem for our domestic industry. And to address the situation, the government recently announced provisional steel safeguards. And again, this is the department's falls within the department's responsibility. I will speak briefly about each of these elements. So Canada has a strong and effective trade enforcement regime. Earlier this year, the government took a number of significant steps to demonstrate that Canada is not and will not be a source of steel and aluminum transshipment into the United States. These measures included announcing important changes to Canada's trade remedy system to address circumvention of duties, providing greater flexibility to address distorted costs in offshore markets, and allowing participation by unions in trade remedy investigations. There was also an announcement of significant new funding, $30 million over 5 years, to strengthen trade enforcement. Most of that funding went to the Canada Border Services Agency for its investigative and enforcement activities. finally, there were amendments to Canada's origin marking regulations to align Canada's marking regime with that of the United States to support a more effective enforcement of country of origin rules in the North American space. In addition, 2 trade monitoring committees were established, one for steel and one for aluminum, involving the participation of federal officials, provincial and territorial officials, as well as industry and unions. These committees have met on a number of occasions and are a useful forum to share information on government initiatives, the context in the United States market, trade patterns, and developments in each of these industries. As I mentioned, once the U.S. imposed their steel and aluminum tariffs and following a consultation period, Canada responded with countermeasures affecting the same value of trade, $16.6 billion. These were imposed on U.S. imports into Canada of steel and aluminum and other products. In imposing these measures, the government was cognizant of the potential impacts that these might have on downstream users, particularly those downstream users in steel and aluminum sectors. Efforts were made not to include products of particular concern, such as those that were not made in Canada. However, we recognize that not all of these issues could be addressed at that time. And on July 11th, the government announced a framework for considering requests for remission. So remission could be granted through a remission order in a number of instances, for example, to address situations of short supply in the domestic market. The relief contemplated here is distinct from the relief through the duties relief and the duty drawback program that Doug just explained. Last Thursday, on October 11, the government announced that it would provide targeted remission from these countermeasures for a number of steel and aluminum products that were determined to be in short supply in Canada. This followed careful review of those requests that were received, discussions with domestic producers concerning supply conditions, and interdepartmental discussions on the proposed relief. For some product, relief is ongoing, while for other products where it was determined that short supply situation might be temporary, the relief has been provided for a 6-month period. The department continues to review and assess recent submissions, and the remission order will be amended as needed on an ongoing basis. Finally, last Thursday as well, the government announced provisional global safeguards on 7 steel products. This followed the consultation period that was held last August. Safeguards are exceptional trade measures that address import surges that cause or threaten to cause injury to domestic producers. Trade restrictive measures taken by other countries, most notably by the United States, but also in response to the United States measure by other countries and trading partners like the European Union and Mexico, with respect to steel products, have caused significant disruptions in global steel markets. Exporters who normally sell into those markets are often looking for more open markets like Canada, and the provisional safeguards that were announced are intended to stabilize the Canadian market, and they will be in place for 200 days. In the meantime, the Canadian International Trade Tribunal has been asked to conduct an inquiry to determine whether longer-term safeguards are needed. The safeguards are in the form of a tariff-free quota, so imports that are in line with historical levels, and that is 100% of the average volumes over a similar period in the last 3 years, would face no additional surtax, provided that importers have obtained an import permit. Imports without an import permit and those that go beyond the quota limits that were established would be subject to a 25% surtax. This safeguards an important trade enforcement measure to address import surges and resultant injury to domestic producers that have arisen because of the exceptional circumstances that are happening in the global steel market. En guise de conclusion, il est clair que le contexte actuel touchant les
In closing, the current steel and aluminum trade context presents significant and complex challenges. We are aware that the challenges faced by stakeholders in these sectors, ranging from primary producers to smaller businesses across the country that rely on a free flow of inputs for the products they manufacture. In responding to the current situation, significant efforts have been made to strike an appropriate balance between different viewpoints. As well, the government continues to work towards the complete repeal of all U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs. Before closing, we wanted to let the committee know that we have taken note of the impacts on the different forms of government by the government. That we will be able to complete the information you heard from the minister when he met with the committee on Tuesday. This concludes my opening remarks. We will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Start off with Conservatives, and Mr. Allison, you have the floor for 5.
Thank you very much, and gentlemen and ladies, thank you for being here. Mr. Ban, question for you. So how much have you guys collected? Do you have a number for us currently of what you've collected in surtax?
So in terms of the surtax, for the first 2 months, it was hovering around 230 million. We're still refining the numbers as we speak, but presently, from what we can tell from the data, the trend line that we saw in those first 2 months, the trajectory is remaining on the same path. So it's going up. It will continue to increase, and certainly in the trade world, it's a voluntary compliance regime that we monitor and do verification work to assure compliance. And so as the industry gets more comfortable with self-assessing the surtax, we expect those to continue to grow. But it's tracking to the same trend line that we saw in the first 2 months.
Okay. And I know we've asked finance or whoever for those numbers just to keep us abreast. I guess one of the challenges when it comes to duty drawback, duty relief, as it relates to this specific issue is the fact that it's a surtax. I mean, it's not really a tariff we're putting on. We've weasel-worded around it by calling it a surtax. So most of what we're collecting is not technically, I guess with the exception of the finance department through the minister's office, on a case-by-case basis, can look at those things. But is it correct that it is a surtax that is actually going on it, which makes it difficult, almost impossible, to be eligible for duty relief and duty drawback programs?
So a surtax is a different form of duty. It's not a customs duty, but it is a duty, and it is eligible under the duty relief and drawback programs for relief.
Okay, so it is eligible.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to us about the process. I mean, you guys, in terms of going through, I mean, one of the challenges we've had, we talked to like a couple hundred stakeholders, and they're just saying, hey, listen, we keep pointing them to the programs, to you guys, and I think one of the challenges they have is just how complicated the forms are to fill out. Like, as a business owner, I fill out an HST form every month. It's pretty easy. I collect the HST and I pay it out and I subtract the difference. I realize this is not HST. So I guess my question is any thoughts around trying to simplify that process? I know it's been something we've raised with the government. I realize you guys execute what the government asks you to do, but talk to us a bit about the process.
Sure. I think the application process is, if I may say so, fairly streamlined. For the drawback, it's a one-page application. For the duty relief program, it's 2.5 pages. That said, I think what the industry is getting at is that the complexity of the compliance challenge is to demonstrate that you can meet the conditions of the program. And I think what's important for the committee is that the law is very clear. These are regulatory regimes, a licensing regime in the DRP's case. And what's paramount is that the imported product can be demonstrably been exported to be eligible for the relief. So that implies certain things for the companies that I think some may find challenging and others not. The ability to have the books and records to show where that product goes across the supply chain. Who are you selling it to? Did they export it? Did it go somewhere else after that? Inventory management, similarly. We're quite flexible in terms of what we would accept. We do a site visit and determine that seems reasonable. But at the end of the day, what's paramount is that the relief only goes to the company for the amount of the good that was imported and subsequently exported. So it's relief for the purposes of importing to re-export. It is allowable to have product enter into the domestic marketplace, but you have to pay the duty on that. And so you got to be able to track where is that imported product ending up before it gets exported.
Sure, and I think that's some of the challenges of dealing with the SMEs. When we deal with some of the bigger guys, bigger companies, obviously with whole departments that look after trade and duty and all these other kinds of things, it makes it tough for traceability in terms of, because some companies they deal with don't have the product of origin and stuff like that. Last question. I understand the reason for safeguards, very well aware. My concern is it's really going to disproportionately affect SMEs. Yeah. And the challenge is their access to steel, whether it's even available in North America, et cetera, and I don't have much time to go through all that. But I guess the question is, so on the 25th, it seems to me we're going to have a whole new round of tariffs put on the steel and aluminum industry as it relates to safeguards. Is that correct?
It has to be very, very short answer.
Yes, on October 25th, that's the case. I will emphasize, as Patrick said, though, they are in the form of a tariff rate quota. It's not a straight 25% on everything. So the intent is really to stabilize the market because we were very mindful of these potential supply issues that could arise.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fonseca, you got the floor. Go ahead.
Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. In my riding of Mississauga East Cooksville, we have a great deal of my constituents. Many of them are CBSA officers, and that's our proximity to Toronto International Airport, Pearson. Now, I don't know if much steel or aluminum comes through kind of their borders there, but when we look at CBSA in terms of the expertise to address the steel and aluminum and understanding that market, that sector, can you tell me a little bit about how many people have been trained in that regard, and the $30 million over the 5 years for enforcement, would that go into that specific sectoral training for aluminum and steel? Because we just heard from Mr. Allison how it may be difficult in terms of the labeling for these products to see what is exactly coming over the border.
So thanks for the question. I'll answer the first question in terms of the new money. So the new monies go to 40 new officers. It is for the Special Import Measures Act activities that we perform. We're part of the trade remedy system that Patrick outlined. And so that's to hire new investigators and compliance personnel in relation to our anti-dumping investigations. Those folks are all located in Ottawa. We don't have a sector-specific expertise base to the workforce. What we have is people who understand how the trade works and how to apply the various acts and pieces of legislation to all. I will say that in my program, we have a very deep expertise in the steel business. In the anti-dumping area, steel is our #1 customer, both in terms of the volume of requests, the investigations, the number of measures that are enforced, and we work very closely with them. So there's a very deep understanding in my employee base of that issue that they're facing as an industry.
Can you explain that anti-dumping? So is that a misrepresentation? So how would a company be able to come forward with their product, their steel or aluminum? Would they say that it's manufactured here? Would they say it's manufactured in the United States, and not say it's coming from China or from another country? How would they do that? And I'd like to also know what penalties are put on those that have these infractions.
So I think that question gets at a couple of different areas. The first one, as I understand it, please correct me, is about do people, how do they avoid or evade duties?
That's right.
They can misclassify them. They can, as you say that it's only this much or it's from this country. When we have a measure in force as a result of our investigations where we're applying duties to imports from a given country of a given product, we have the ability to identify those and correct them. And in those cases, there can be an advanced monetary penalty. The maximum penalty is $25,000, but those penalties can be issued in that regard. And so we also have where people are being mischievous, if you will, and trying to deceive and by avoiding application of duties that are protecting Canadian jobs and companies. We have new authorities called anti-circumvention investigations, and what that's about is giving us the ability to really identify and quickly go after companies that may be actually physically altering, for example, a product. If you take, for example, rubber footwear that's waterproof, puncturing holes in it in order to evade a measure in force for those types of products, and then after it's imported, fixing it so that it is once again waterproof. So that gives us new authority to go after those kind of activities.
And how much of that are you able to are you able to detect those things that you just brought up? And it seemed to me what you brought up, 25,000. That seems like a pittance in terms of a penalty. In your opinion, should that be much higher?
So we're looking at the whole advanced monetary penalties regime in the trade area, including the CIMA duties, to make sure that they are providing the deterrence that they are intended to provide. On the first part of the question. We haven't had yet, I should back up, the CIMA investigative process is initiated by industry by and large. They bring forward a complaint. And so once we determine that is a legitimate and reasonable complaint, the the investigation is initiated after 51 days as a maximum. And so that gets the ball rolling, if you will. So we do rely on and work with industry to identify these actors which may be trying to avoid duty. And where there is the perception of dumping in a reasonable case, we launch the investigation, and if it's found to be true, attach duties for a period of 5 years.
And in terms of the penalty, your thoughts?
So the penalty, it really depends on what the nature of the activity. There's penalties for late accounting. There's penalties for making errors in classification. There's a whole gamut of them, and the penalty ranges from the type of misclassification or activity. But the maximum at the end of the day is $25,000.
And are these bad actors repeat offenders?
Sorry, Mr. Vincent,
Oh, yeah,
I know you're on a roll there, but I have,
Are they
Right,
repeat offenders?
we're going to move over to the NDP now, and Ms. Ramsey, you got the floor.
Thank you, and welcome to the committee. I want to ask the CBSA officials a couple of questions. So how many people were in your anti-dumping department before these tariffs were levied against us?
So I believe it was upwards of 60.
Okay. And of the 40 people that are meant to be allocated for that 30 million, how many have actually been hired?
So far, we've hired 10, and those are all investigators. We were able to hit the ground running with staffing. Staffing in the government, as you can appreciate, takes a while. And so we've got 10 in the door already, and we have processes underway to bring in more.
Okay. And you're up to 3 times your normal levels so far this year. You've already hit 3 times your number, and we're not even through the end of the year then, given the numbers that you gave us. So I would like to see you fully staffed with as many people as it takes to be able to process these in a quick manner, because that is the criticism that we're hearing here. And it is about that inspection point where you have to go out. I certainly have heard this locally from companies in Windsor, Essex, that they're being told there are dates of 4 to 5 months out until someone can actually come to the site to look to see whether or not they qualify. So this, for small and medium-sized businesses is really a killer. And a lot of them, we've heard at this committee, are laying people off, having down weeks. We're really in an emergency situation. I want to ask you, the anti-circumvention unit that you mentioned, I think that you, delicately said what I would call cheating, which is what these companies are doing to disadvantage Canadian companies greatly. And I wonder how many people work in this particular unit or department.
So we don't have a specific unit dedicated to that function. As of yet, we haven't had any complaints initiated by the industry. What we have is a team that is able to undertake all the various forms of investigative activity. And I should say your point about cheating is quite legitimate. They are cheating the system, and if we suspect that it is a case of trade fraud, that can be referred to criminal investigation, and that can from time to time occur.
So how many people are on that team then with the anti-circumvention?
So the team that is new, that is in addition to our resource base initially, is 10 people strong right now. This isn't, I have to be clear to the committee, it's not dedicated to the new authorities. That additional team of people will give us the ability to cover all of the authorities, including the new ones and the existing ones, under the Special Import Measures Act.
Have you made further staffing requests from the government to try to deal with this influx?
I think at this point, what we've been able to do is reallocate internally. The member raised the question of, the duty relief processing times, and there being a requirement for a visit. We've reallocated personnel to shore up, and that's in the regions that work is done. And so I've had the regional offices reallocate personnel, and I think as you can see from so far, at least with the surge, there's always room for improvement, and we have to do everything we can to get those processed. But it seems to be at least holding the water for now.
So I'm sure you've analyzed the need for people on the ground, and if you had additional people that were able to fill those roles, that you would be able to ramp up your efforts and be able to not even have to reallocate to actually have fresh people there. Have you done any analysis on what you feel you need to be able to deal with the emergency situation that we're in?
We have a sense that surely, let me back up. It depends really how long the surtax is in effect for and what the kind of surge lasts. Like, that's an unknown commodity for everybody.
We have to assume indefinitely at this point.
At this point, it's difficult to predict. More is always better, but in the trade world, as you can tell from some of the things we're talking about, it's a very technical domain. It's deep expertise. And I just want to caution that, immediate surges of untrained people It's helpful for the medium term. In the short term, we're going to have to get through together with what we've got, working with industry, other departments, because even as we bring new officers on board, it just takes them well over a year to get up to speed to be of the kind of assistance that industry needs.
All right. I think that the gap that we're hearing that exists is between the approval. You have 36 people, which is just shocking to me that there's only 36 people who have been approved. But the 36 people then are not getting their payment, which jumps over to finance because they're approved. But how many of the 36 have received the funds that they're owed at this point?
So
Does that go to finance? Do they cover
would be
the
us,
payment?
actually.
Yeah,
We would-
so I'll ask.
So we
Mr.
are both
Howley?
the administrator as well as on
Oh,
both sides.
okay. So
the
you just
intake-
get approval and then send it out?
Yeah, so the way it works is, once the license and all of the players on the chain are licensed, the reef flows immediately. So they just aren't simply having to pay the duty and taxes. And if we find out after the fact, through verification, through audit, that they have broken the terms and conditions of that relief license, then they'll get a bill from us. So
Okay,
it
so-
should be
No,
occurring.
sorry.
I think it's unclear. What I'm
Sorry,
saying is
Ms.
people
Ramsey,
saying
sorry.
they haven't been
Your
paid
time is up,
yet.
way up, way over. Sorry, we have to move over to the Liberals, and Mr. Sheehan, you get the floor.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and just wanted to sort of pick up where Tracy was going with the new officers. In our first committee meeting, part 2, was the David McHattie, who was he's the incoming president for the Canadian Manufacturers Association. And I'd asked him a question, and I said, what do you feel, because the federal government has made a number of changes, and Patrick had alluded to some in the 2017 budget about the scoping and the market distortion, union participation, and also the other ones that were in the 2016 budget. But I asked of all the ones, he referenced the one that was recently announced by the Prime Minister, and that is the increase of the funding, the 30 million and the 40 new officers for the Canadian Border Service Agency. So you kind of alluded to a special set of skills that they would have. Maybe you could delve into that, because I'm on the border in Sault Ste. Marie. Peter obviously has some folks in Mississauga at the airport. But what kind of skill sets would these individuals have and be able to use in, as David McHattie saying, being able to fight this battle very effectively?
I'll speak quickly to it, and then I'll ask Alex to add to it, because this is more his specific domain, in the sense that he was one of those officers earlier in his career. A couple of things, these are, they tend to be accountant types, in the way that a CRA auditor is, not always, but they tend to be, BCom accountant types, and the kind of people that you can reasonably send into a boardroom of a foreign company and bust open the books and pour through it and really figure out what is the price that company is selling in their domestic market, recognizing what the various subsidy programs might be, what's the actual price that they're selling, and how does that compare to the price that they're selling into Canada, and de facto, are they selling lower than what they can sell in their own domestic market, and that constitutes dumping. So it's about pouring through the books and wading through the minutiae to really get to the truth and the heart of the matter. And those are the kind of people, and it takes a while for them to learn the Special Import Measures Act, and like a lot of the requirements that we adhere to be WTO compliant, including the formulas and the methods that we use to calculate, they're all prescribed in the legislation. So there's a lot of learning, but that's the background educationally that they bring. Alex, did you want to add?
Just before you go on that point, to follow up on your point, so with the new officers in place, you alluded to in your opening comments that the time that usually it takes to do the work has been shortened. I can't remember the amount of days, but it has been shortened. So obviously it has been successful.
So I think there's a little bit of difference that I need to clarify here. When I spoke in my remarks about the time frames being shortened,
Yep.
That was in reference to processing of the duty relief program and the drawback program. So that's people that are looking for relief either at importation or after.
And what
When
was
we
the
talk about the
shortened
new
time?
officers,
What was the shortened time again? I just.
so that was our service performance
Yeah.
in getting those licenses approved
Yeah.
for people, or those drawback claims approved and
Yeah.
getting relief out, has shrunk from a typical 90-day time frame to 45 and 23 respectively for those
Congratulations.
programs.
Thank you.
The team that we're adding is around investigations of anti-dumping,
Yep.
completely distinct, completely separate functions. And there we're actually time-bound in the statute for the maximum amount of timeframes. Usually it's 260 days to go from A to Z of an anti-dumping investigation, with the CITT undertaking concurrent activities to determine whether or not the dumping and the subsidy we identified is having injury on Canadian customers.
To go back to the original question in terms of educational background and skill sets, well, there's not a lot I can add to Doug's response. Accounting, auditing backgrounds, certain level of knowledge with respect to finance and international trade, as well as ideally some technical knowledge when it comes to steel or aluminum particularly. Well, that's something that can be gained on the job. Essentially, we're looking for somebody who's comfortable doing books and records, audits, comfortable with accounting and looking through reams of business transactional data, as well as just comfortable with international trade in general.
Thank you. Patrick, of the remission orders that have been granted, what percentage of the companies that are benefiting are small businesses?
Just a quick answer there, please.
So of the 50 that were assessed and part of last week's announcement, 35 of those were SMEs, so about 70%.
Thank you.
Thank you, and in the first round, we're going to start a second round. We're going to go to a short second round, and we have the British Columbia dynamic duo here. We have, good to see Ms. Murray here, the member from Vancouver Quadra. So you and Mr. Dhaliwal are going to share 5 minutes. Go.
Well, thank you very much, and it's great to be a visitor to this committee and this very important study. And so I just wanted to share a letter that I received actually yesterday about how the remission program's actually working very well. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the letter writer writes about our business as a small business that distributes specialized steel products. And we import this product from the United States and have many manufacturing customers across Western Canada who depend on this product. Essentially, the countermeasures brought the business to a standstill as the Canadian customers had no other Canadian source for this product, and it was no longer allowed them to be competitive. So they approached my office, and I sent them to the Ministry of International Trade, and they made it their way to the right person to investigate their situation. And the writer says, I'm pleased to let you know that this last week we received a remission order for our product. The joy and relief of our customers and our staff is immense. They complimented how the government functioned in exploring the merits of the case for remission, and said that they want to thank the government on behalf of their company and customers across Western Canada, representing over 5,000 jobs. Wow. So I thought I would just share a success story from the West Coast, and thank you for your part in that.
Well done, Joyce.
Thank you, thank you, Joyce, and thank you to the presenters. My first question is going to go to Mr. Hali. Yesterday, I met with Chris Gardner, the president, and Tim Gunn, the vice president of Independent Contractors and Businesses Association from British Columbia. And the issue they raised with me is that the rebar that we use in British Columbia, 15% of it is local, and 85% it comes from either U.S. or Asia. And they've also mentioned that it's not feasible to bring rebar from Quebec or Ontario. I'm just wondered, because it's going to affect the housing market and it's affecting the small businesses there as well. Is there any programs that you're thinking in future that will help small businesses like that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we have heard some commentary as well from stakeholders on that issue. I guess I would reiterate that for the provisional safeguards, which are in place for 200 days, they are in the form of a tariff rate quota. So companies that are importing, along the lines of historical volumes, should be able to continue, provided that they're obtaining the permits that are required. So the intent wasn't to kind of clamp down too much on imports, address the surge, but not go too far with it. We are taking feedback from companies that might face particular issues, and certainly as part of the Trade Tribunal's process, they will be hearing these views as well, which will then be reflected, I would think, in the recommendation that comes back to the government for any final safeguard that might be recommended. So we're certainly listening to those views. If there are things that are more of an urgent nature, I think we would reflect on that and see whether the government needs to do something to address it.
Is there a particular department or person that this independent contractors and business association should contact?
They can certainly come to us.
Okay, thank you. Question to the CBSA. You were mentioning that, because I come from British Columbia, Surrey, the nearest point to the border as well, on the Pacific side. Because you hired those new officers mostly doing with the accounting background, right? But my interest is more when products are moving across the border. What are the challenges that you are facing, or is there anything that or suggestions or recommendations that you might have that we can do to make the life easier for CBSA?
Thank you for the question. Nothing's coming to mind, quite honestly, but I think from our standpoint, we want to get people on the programs that will give them the relief that they deserve. And sometimes it requires patience in working with us and working through, as was mentioned by the member, a site visit. We send officers out to confirm that the kind of traceability and the books and records that are required to get the duty relief program benefits, of which is $385 million last year, and benefits given to over 400 companies. That takes a bit of a while. So, and we know that is it can feel like a burden to companies when they've got so many pressures. But if they just stay with us, be patient, work with us, then we know that it pays off in the end, because we've got the evidence that these programs can be of particular assistance to companies that are importing for the purposes of re-exporting.
Thank you, sir. And that wraps up your time, Mr. Dhaliwal. And we got time for one more MP, and go to Conservatives. Mr. Carey, you got the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Basically, I've heard from stakeholders that are extremely concerned of the sense of urgency with this, and they've said to us that nobody is listening. And we did have the minister here on the other day, and I was actually getting quite upset because it seemed that he was oblivious to the problems that were in the program. We actually, as a committee, called people in June because of the sense of urgency that we were hearing from the community, and they've been in touch with us regularly over the last 4 months. This committee is doing a study on this, and it seemed that the minister had no sense of urgency, that he really wasn't briefed to a point where he knew what we were hearing from committee. And one thing that I found quite promising, Mr. Haley, you mentioned that you have taken note of the testimony since Tuesday type of thing, but did the minister give you any direction as a department to monitor this committee and kind of keep up to date with what we were hearing on the ground?
Well, I think I can speak for our division, where we certainly listen and read the transcript of the committee to make sure that we
and is the
aware of the
minister aware of
issues.
that? Because, like, I don't know if you're aware, but we've heard in testimony that the thresholds currently in place for the strategic innovation funds are way too high for SMEs, and these people are right on the precipice. We're hearing from companies right now that are seriously thinking of maybe relocating or shutting down business. Are there any plans currently in place to change any thresholds?
The Strategic Innovation Fund is administered by Innovation Science and Economic Development, so I cannot really speak to that. But I think what the minister did speak about, and what we can certainly reemphasize is a lot of the SMEs that we deal with respect to remission, for example, we certainly had a lot of back and forth with them and making sure that they are aware of the remission process, for example, and that they are that we can work with them when they have requests. And as we outlined, the first wave of remission that was announced last week, 70% of those were SMEs. So we're really working with them. And in the suite of programs that the government has announced at the end of June, with respect to BDC, EDC, work sharing arrangements, all of this, I think there's a lot of SMEs that are being that they interact with a lot of SMEs.
Well, I'll interrupt you just there because I heard the minister quote statistics on the loans, and just earlier in the day we were told, but the loans make it's useless to a lot of these companies on the ground. They need relief as soon as possible. And what worries me is the lag time of response. We had Minister Freeland here in I think it was June or May, and she told us, she confirmed that I believe the G7 in 2017, Mr. Trump, Mr. Trudeau had a conversation. She was present in that conversation, and Mr. Trump brought up this whole idea of tariffs. There was nothing in the budget to be prepared for this. The Americans mentioned them in March that this was going to be happening. They did give us a relief till June. It seemed politically that there was nothing being done till after June as far as like a consultation with industry, things along those lines. And I was just wondering, when did you get political direction, knowing that we knew about this for over a year? March was when these were announced, to come up with some type of relief program that was coming down the pipe. Was it in June after the fact that we were just kind of reacting to what was going on, or did you guys get information after the G7, like back in June, that we knew that this could be a potential problem for us?
Well, what I could maybe reiterate is what we had done. So when the first wave of 232 tariffs were imposed by the U.S. back in March, Canada was exempted. There were some concerns expressed with respect to transshipment, for example, with trade enforcement in Canada, and the government has responded with concrete measures that we talk about with respect to new funding, changing some regulation with respect to origin, the trade remedy system. So all of that was done to address these concerns prior to the imposition of the duties by the Americans.
Yeah, but as far as the programming and the preparation, like there was no money in the budget, but apparently we knew about it, the potential of this happening for like well over a year. We knew quite clearly that March that's when the hammer came down. We had a bit of relief, but these companies, this is urgent, and it just seems the frustration building of non-communication, non-adaptability, non-flexibility in these programs. I'm just worried that our manufacturing sector is going to be devastated within the next few months. And maybe Mr. Morneau knows, maybe there is a deal that these are coming off soon, that he's not so worried about it. But this is an urgent situation. I'd just like to emphasize that for the people we have on the ground.
Okay, there's no time for a response, but you're over your time, so that we'll have to end it there, and that ends that second round. And that ends the dialogue with the MPs, and thank you for coming, folks. And it's challenging times for everybody, whether you're in the bureaucracy or definitely if you're a business owner or employees out there. So thank you for coming again. We're going to just suspend for probably 8 minutes because we have via video conference and 2 groups coming on video. So just 8 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to go into our second part of our study today. And our next two witnesses are video conference, all the way from the wonderful island of PEI and to our neighbors south in Chicago. Can you hear me all right? If you can't, give me a little thumbs up or something. All good. This might be your first time you're in front of a committee, or maybe in front of our committee. I'll ask you folks to do a presentation. Try to keep it around 5 minutes or under would be appreciated, and then so we can have good dialogue with the MPs. So, without further ado, we have from Atlas 2, from all the way from Chicago, Illinois. So, if Mr. Siekelman, you want to start first? Go ahead. You got the floor. Oh, just one sec. Can everybody hear him? Okay.
We're good?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and unfortunately, I've spent way too much time in front of trade committees and tribunals. So, hopefully we can resolve that. Thank you for taking the time today. I'm pleased to be before the committee to help this important task of examining North American and global steel trade issues. It's vital that the members of Parliament know the challenges the steel business faces today and the impact on Canadian employees and their families dependent on steel companies like our own. I should mention that we are a steel consumer. Atlas Canada is part of Zekelman Group, a Canadian-owned but with major operations on both sides of the border. We employ hundreds of people in our Harrow, Ontario facility and are a vital part of the southwestern Ontario economy. We make mostly carbon steel structural tubing and piling, both critical to infrastructure projects. I want to talk about two things. First, the direct impact on Atlas of the US and Canadian reciprocal steel surcharges, and two, how offshore steel is being diverted to Canada because the US market is effectively closed to imports. Because of our extensive cross-border operations, we have direct experience in Canada and US steel trade, but also in the damaging impact of low-priced offshore products that have been flooding into Canada over the years. Whatever product we are talking about, the world is awash in excess steel. The OECD has been studying the problem of massive excess global capacity for years. Because of that, countries like China and others in Asia and elsewhere have to export, and this steel floats around the world looking for a home. Exporters and huge trading operations will seek any opportunity to liquidate these supplies at whatever price they can get. Canada has been a target of these opportunistics for many years. It's becoming worse now that the US market isn't open. For example, the data shows huge increases in structural tubing imports into Canada after President Trump imposed his national security measures. The question is this: what should Canada do to protect our industry and the families that depend on us? Anti-dumping and subsidy complaints are only a partial remedy. They are cumbersome and expensive, designed in an era when steel business moved very slowly. Today, the trade moves at an amazing speed. Deals can be done in a second, and there are multiple ways to circumvent these actions. Canada needs to initiate rapid safeguard action for threatened steel products like HSS, following the ones that were just announced for 7 categories of steel. But we need to move beyond safeguards. They're temporary, to permanent and more rapid measures to deal with the reality of unfair steel trade. Although the implementation of safeguards are welcome, they're really just a feel-good measure. Canada is already awash in dumped steel and steel-intensive products. We have witnessed 2 of our biggest steel producers bounce in and out of CCAA protection for many years. This has been a direct result of dumped steel. Nothing else caused that problem. I must say that as the single largest hot-rolled coil consumer in both Canada and the US, we purchase over 2.5 million tons of this steel a year. And as a taxpayer, I'm appalled that this has happened. I have a tube plant in Welland, Ontario that has been closed for 3 years while import tube floods into the Canadian market. My tax dollars are going to bail out pensions and mills that could be economically viable if illegally dumped imports were stopped. Safeguards will still allow the current level of imports to flood our markets while only charging duties on the amounts over the ridiculously high historical norm. Here are my suggestions for some immediate steps. We must implement quotas at levels such as, let's say, 30% less than the 2015 to 17 average level for non-United States, Mexico countries. The tariff rate quota in the present temporary safeguard simply allows imports at present injurious levels, with foreign producers averaging their costs over total exports by paying 25% on their additional exports. Reductions on all imported steel products to levels that will support full utilization of domestic output. Provide a streamlined exemption system for products not produced in Canada or that fall in short supply so as not to hurt our steel consuming businesses. we must agree to a two-way quota with the U.S. to immediately eliminate tariffs. These measures will provide significant relief to both the steel industry and consumers so that businesses can continue to prosper, employ Canadians, and make long-term investment decisions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And we're going to go over to, I'm from Cape Breton, so I'd say that's the best island to visit, but if there's a close second, it's PEI. So good to see you, sir. I hope you got through all the wind, a lot of wind the last few days.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
Nothing blew away. So go ahead, sir, you got the floor.
All right, thank you. Just want to thank the committee for extending this opportunity to MSE today. A little introduction. McDougall Steel Erectors, Inc., MSE, is a family-owned business since its inception in 1998. MSE fabricates and erects structural steel and miscellaneous metals from our main plant in Borden, Carleton, Prince Edward Island. Our current markets are all across Canada and into the eastern United States. We currently employ approximately 150 people. Tariff impacts on price. Currently, MSE products crossing the border to the U.S. are not affected by the U.S. tariff, as we are shipping fabricated structural steel, not raw materials. The issue MSE has been experiencing is the rapid increase in costs of raw material and the availability of some products. Over the last 12 months, steel prices have significantly increased by as much as 40%. As tariffs came into effect, all prices started to climb rapidly. We are an end user of the steel, so our prices have gone up, but since we are not buying directly from the United States, we do not have the invoices / support for the direct amount of the tariff that we ended up covering. We are somewhat confused about how the tariff is being collected by the Canadian government and as how it is to be redistributed. It seems we are paying the higher price but are unable to get compensated. Direct negative effects to McDougall Steel. It was the time period when steel prices quickly moved higher earlier in the year that affected our company the most. It had a major negative effect on both profitability and cash flow. Profitability. We had jobs, contracts, signed contracts based on current steel prices. Once the steel started to increase, we took a hit directly. We couldn't pass this on to our customers as we had already received purchase orders or contracts that were signed. Raw materials for a couple of projects, just to give an example, 2 or 3 projects, our costs on materials alone would have been up over $100,000 on each project from what we had carried in the bid, which is a direct hit to our bottom line. Some of these jobs were months away. Oh, sorry, where are we here? Oh yeah, cash flow. Also, when the prices started to climb, we had to lock in as many of our steel prices as we could so we didn't continue to bleed our job profit. Once we committed to buy, our suppliers wanted payments in 30 days. Some of these jobs were months away from hitting the shop floor, and we typically cannot bill our customer until the steel is on site. Therefore, we had to cash flow millions of dollars more in inventory than we usually would. Prices were so volatile for a while that we had to tell customers their quote was only good for 1 day. Uncertainty within the marketplace. There was still a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace with tariffs. We were hoping the steel tariffs would have been dealt with as part of the NAFTA renegotiations. We recently expanded our shop to do more work in the United States before the tariff talks started. So with our increased overheads and capacity, we need to be able to do the work in the United States to stay competitive. Future work. We are trying to keep jobs within our company. With the downturn in the oil market and the limited number of significant industrial projects on the go, It has been a significant challenge as current capacity in Canada is larger than the demand. With the oversupply of lower demand within the Canadian market, margins have significantly decreased and profitability is suffering. We are quite disappointed to hear that the BC LNG project might be exempt from the current import duties of FISC, fabricated industrial structural steel. We feel Canada has the resources and knowledge to fabricate these modules. The Canadian steel fabricators need a project like this. There could be a couple of more LNG projects announced. Once the government provides this exemption for one project, they will have to provide it for all projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, and challenging times to say the least. And we're going to go to dialogue with the MPs now, and we're going to start off with Conservatives. Mr. Hoback, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here this morning. I guess my first question is to Mr. Siekelman. You talked about your 2 facilities being closed in Canada because the market just didn't allow them to be open. Why aren't they opening now? We've heard from Mr. Clark and other guys saying that they're having a hard time securing source steel here in Canada. So what will it take to actually open these 2 facilities?
Well, first off, it's one facility that we have closed in Welland.
Okay.
You know, our other facility is running, but the problem is he's sourcing steel out of Canada. Our market that we would supply out of that Welland plant is flooded with imports from Thailand, from Vietnam, from Korea. So until those imports disappear, we don't have any volume to open that plant.
So the Countervail tariffs don't help you at all? What's in place right now do nothing?
There are no tariffs on that product.
Okay.
There's none. The other thing I'd like to add is, yes, steel prices have increased, and there was an immediate shock to that. Remember, I'm a steel consumer, not a producer. You know, we buy $450 million of steel a year in Canada. So we're the largest steel buyer in Canada, larger than any automotive company. So I'm affected by it as well. But I would argue that steel prices have been ridiculously depressed for many, many years. And yes, while prices swing up and down, and the gentleman in PEI, I sympathize with, but there's been years where steel prices have gone down, and I'm pretty sure he didn't go back to his consumers and lower the price. So, you know, it's give and take. But I will tell you his point on the LNG plant is it's unconscionable that we would allow imported fabricated products for those plants. Again, with the tax dollars that gentleman pays and I do are going to go to foreign producers, while we have steel companies and fabricators here struggling to get by. It's unconscionable that we would allow that to happen.
Okay. Mr. Clark, you talked about the inability in your pricing to get the duty deferral. You know, it's required that you sign a waiver if you're buying steel from the U.S. and you can't claim it. Actually, the importer claims it. Are you saying that you're not seeing that price, that claimant amount reduced in the price? You're not seeing what that amount is?
Well, so when we purchase our products, we purchase typically from service centers. So the service center would buy that material from the United States.
Yep.
Then he would give me a price on that material, which includes the tariff, and then I just pay the bottom price that I got.
Okay, so then is he pocketing the tariff duty relief and the duty deferral?
That's one of our questions.
Yeah, because you've got to sign I think it's called a K32 or a K32A form, basically saying that you don't have any right to claim. But by doing that, you're left on alert. You have no ability to know exactly whether you're getting rebated on that tariff amount or not. So how much is that being pocketed by the industry and just being added into their bottom lines and you're paying for it?
That's our question today.
You have no ability to know that, eh?
We don't know that, no.
Okay. Now, Mr. Zickerman, how do you deal in that situation where you got people importing steel into Canada, claiming that, mind you, there's not many of them getting the duty deferral relief. Out of 85,000 views on their internet, I think they've approved 50, so kind of gives you an idea where they're at. But how do we create a system so that there's transparency through it, so that actually can see the duty deferral being passed on to the manufacturer here in Canada?
Yeah, I sympathize with the gentleman. You know, we buy directly from the mills, so but our product is all dutiable from the U.S. So we're most of our steel that we use is Canadian source steel. So we're buying from Stelco, Algoma, and the likes, and processing that and shipping it. I will tell you there are other problems that are being borne by the consumer. For instance, there are no electrical conduit manufacturers in Canada. It's not made here. Yep. The primary manufacturers that are in the United States, we're one of them. So our product is shipping over to the Canadian consumer and being charged 25% duty. And the Canadian consumer is bearing that for really no reason. They couldn't access that product in Canada. It's not made here. And again, the gentleman in PEI is probably talking about beams. There is no beam producer in Canada. So all that product is either brought in from offshore or from the United States. And if it's brought in from the United States, you're penalizing the consumer here, like the gentleman from PEI, who's paying a duty, ends up paying eventually a duty on a product that's not even made here, and there's no exclusions.
So is there any way?
Sorry, Mr. Holback, your time is up.
Any way that you can actually identify that so that they remove it?
We'll have to.
Sure, we can. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll have to move over to the Liberals, and Mr. Peterson, you got the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. If you wanted to expand on Mr. Holback's question, he got cut off just at the last second there. Please take a few seconds if you needed to expand on that.
We've put in exclusion requests, for a product that isn't produced here, and there is some movement on it. So we've gotten exclusions on certain product, because at the end of the day, you don't want to cost the consumer money and make them uncompetitive. So we have gotten that. I think the process is a little bit slow, but it is being dealt with. But to the gentleman in PEI's stake, I would have to think that he'd go to his service center and say, look, did you apply for exclusion on this? And I expect to get compensated for that duty that you told me I have to pay. There has to be a mechanism that he has with his supplier.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, maybe we can help you somehow, Mr. Clark, navigate this process for you. I mean, we have your contact info. We can perhaps get someone to reach out and help you in the process if you're amenable to that. We'll see what we can do, because it does sound unfair that you're not able to tap into this. Sure. And these tariffs are obviously an exceptional circumstance, and they're most unfortunate. Obviously, they're retaliatory because the American administration put these tariffs on steel for national security reasons, which is just most unfortunate, to put it mildly. But it seems, Mr. Zuckelman, that and it's a good opportunity actually for us to look at the steel industry more generally, and you've raised some important issues and some important trouble spots, I'll call them, in the industry. And I think this committee did a study 2 years ago. It was I think maybe not quite 2, but almost 2 years ago, on dumping and the impact that has on the industry. But it seems to me you've thought about a lot of solutions, which is good. So you mentioned quotas as an immediate step. But you didn't have much time because it was in your opening there. If you want to expand on maybe how that would work, how that would improve the industry, and please take a bit of time to do so.
Well, sure. I mean, look at hot rolled coil or cold rolled coil or galvanized coil that floods into Canada. I mean, you should put a quota on that product category, not necessarily a country, but that product category. If you put a quota on, let's say 1 million tons of hot rolled coil comes into this country, and we've got steel mills that could easily produce 600,000 more of those, you should put a quota down to 400,000 tons so that the domestic steel mills could fill themselves up and employ the people to do that. Same on pipe and tube. Again, I could have 120 people working for me in Welland producing and consuming, by the way, 140 or 150,000 tons of steel and producing that. But the imports come in standard pipe from the likes of Korea, Thailand, Vietnam. And if we quoted that product down, I could start that plant up again and support the domestic steel industry. But we just let the product pour in. And you have to, I'll give you an example, and I'll try and do it very quickly. Piling, which we pound into the ground. We filed the dumping case against China on piling. And we won that case. It took 18 months and I spent $2 million. I won that case. The very day I won the case, the gentleman who was importing that product changed the tariff code to API 5L line pipe and brought it in as line pipe. I had to then file another 18-month dumping case on line pipe. to get that blocked out. And we blocked it out from China. The very next day, he brought it in from India. So I've spent $3 million and got no relief. You need to put quotas on the product category from all countries, and then block it out from here and let the domestic producers produce it and support our industry and create jobs here and pay taxes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Am I out of time, Mr. Chair? I got 30 seconds. Okay, Mr. Clark, I just want to sort of learn a little bit more about your business. So the inputs you're buying, you're saying you're buying from the States. Is that correct? Is that what
The material that we
Yeah.
purchase? We buy it from, we buy beams from the US, HSS materials from Canada, some jumbo sizes which aren't available in Canada, we get from the US, so we get hit twice.
Right. So the stuff you're buying from the U.S. isn't generally available in Canada. Is that correct, or am I making an assumption?
Just the W shapes, so beams essentially.
Okay. And so are those coming in now tariff duty free, or what's this? How are they treated?
There's no tariff from Canada on the beams,
Right.
I believe.
And when you're selling back to the United States, I think some of your customers were in the eastern United States. You said, are they
Yes.
are there any tariffs or duties or surtaxes put on that product?
There's no tariff on our materials because it's fabricated structural steel. So the tariff is only on raw materials.
Okay.
And that's what you're having trouble collecting, and we can hopefully
Thank you,
help
Mr.
with that.
Peterson.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you. We're going to move over to the NDP now. Ms. Ramsey, you've got the floor.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for being here. You know, we have been talking all this week about the fact that we're in an emergency situation right now. And Barry, it's wonderful to have you here. I often speak of Atlas Tube here at the committee and the importance of those jobs in a very small rural community in our riding, and good paying jobs that are sustaining that entire community. So, you know, I appreciate you being able to be here and share your thoughts with the committee. And a couple of things that we've learned today. So out of the government's money that they've put towards improving and preventing and circumventing, 10 people have only been added at CBSA. And we heard today that of the people that are applying for the duty drawback and other programs, there have only been 36 companies that have been approved, and we've yet to hear from one, I should say, that's received the money. So, you know, we're in this very long, slow process that is killing business across our country and costing us jobs. So we're trying to bring that here to the government so that I think they understand the urgency that we're facing. One of the things that I want to touch on, Barry, you mentioned, you know, the full utilization of domestic steel and what that looks like. Both of you commented on the LNG, which is just unfathomable that we are now giving a free pass to a company and to a product that we know is being dumped into our country and costing us jobs every single day is just beyond comprehension. But I wonder if you can speak a little further to other ways that we can improve our domestic consumption, perhaps through government procurement or federally funded infrastructure projects. Barry, I'll pass it to you for your thoughts on how we can do that.
Well, sure. Thank you, Tracy, and thanks for all the work you've done for our, you know, our company and our community. Just one example. We know that beams aren't manufactured in Canada at all. You know, when we did the Herb Gray Parkway, was built in Windsor. 30,000 tons of piling for the footings for the bridges and overpasses were done with beams. So I'm 20 miles away, and I could produce pipe piling for that out of Canadian steel, yet we procured beams from the United States and from foreign countries to go into that highway. So here again, my tax dollars are going to U.S. companies and to foreign companies to put into an infrastructure project, which I'm 20 miles away from, that I could supply. So, you know, we just do some dumb things. And we certainly need to put into, you know, a buy Canadian policy for those projects, particularly when products aren't even made here and there's alternate products. But, you know, it all comes down to steel coming in. And look, I'm going to tell you, I've imported steel into Canada from the like Russia and others, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And the reason I had to import that steel is I needed it at cheap prices to compete against finished imports that compete against my product. It's ridiculous. So I could have bought that steel from Stelco, Algoma, or ArcelorDefasco and made product and shipped it into the market, but I've had to compete with stuff from China or from Korea or from Taiwan. And it's unconscionable that this is going on when places aren't running at capacity. Look, Stelco is a very a good steel mill. They have great costs. They've been out in bankruptcy twice. Look at Algoma. The only reason those mills went into bankruptcy is because anytime they got pricing traction where they could get to real sustainable, profitable levels, imports flooded in and crushed them, pulled the rug out from under them. If we had a system that quoted these products coming in or blocked them out, we would have a very vibrant and successful steel industry where they would have reinvested hundreds of millions of dollars, as would have we. So, we need a way to block out these imports, much like the U.S. has.
Can you share with us quickly what the dumping has looked like over the last year for your company?
Yeah, so again, on piling, we're not even in the business in Canada. These guys circumvent and bring it in from every country, and it's virtually unstopped because they just change country of origin or the product code. That's how they circumvent. And the same on structural tubing. Yes, we're producing and we're doing well in Canada, but how much better could we do? Yeah. How many more people could we employ, and how much more steel? So, we've seen HSS imports increase dramatically, but also, again, I'll point back to the plant I have in Welland. It's completely shut down. I could have 120 people working there. We're earning, by the way, $25, $30 an hour, and buying, $100 million of steel out of Stelco Lake Erie, and I can't even light the place up because of imports from Thailand and Korea and Vietnam. Well, you need to block those imports out, and I'll start the plant tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to move over to the Liberals now. Mr. Dhaliwal, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you both Betty and Dave for being the presenters. You both mentioned LNG. I come from British Columbia. It's great news for British Columbia and great news for Canadians with this type of project. And it will also help the way Tracy was saying, high-paying, sustainable jobs as well. And it will help the steel industry. Do you agree?
It depends where they're going to get their fabricated product from. I mean, obviously, now the government spent $3.5 billion buying a pipeline. Great. With my tax dollars and the gentleman from PEI's tax dollars, and now they're going to allow a company to hook up to that by bringing in imported fabricated product not done here in Canada, because they claim it's going to cost them $1 billion more. Okay, well, I didn't see my company getting a bailout like the automotive industry did for $12 billion from the government, but yet we're allowing this company it's $1 billion cost on a $40 billion project. It's unconscionable that we let that happen. You're talking about a project that'll last for 50 years. So, they're saying it's $1 billion cheaper, yet it's on our back. I mean, there are fabricators that could be busy here using Canadian steel and Canadian labor to fabricate this, and we've granted them a hall pass. Do you think they're not going to do this project for the $1 billion? It's ridiculous. And by the way, it's more than the $1 billion. You're talking about tens of billions of dollars of fabricated product that could be made here. So great, if the government wants to buy a pipeline and bail everybody out, tell them to give the LNG Canada $1 billion loan to have $15 billion worth of product made here. I think that's a better return than letting it be made in China.
And when you talk about quotas, there must be some drawbacks as well, because how it can be equitable. Like, I'm trying to understand, because if the one company takes that quota and it doesn't go to the other companies. Can you explain me a little bit so that I can understand that quota system that you suggest is equitable?
Well, I'm not saying the quota would have to go to the country or the countries that importing the product. So it's you're talking about the consumer in Canada accessing that quota.
That's right. That's correct.
Well, listen, the consumer in Canada will have access to the product that's made in Canada. What's the difference? If they buy it, wouldn't they buy Canadian product rather than an imported product? If it's produced here, if I could start up my plant, I'll have available product for them. They don't need to access that quota. I'll make it for them. But I'm trying to be a compromise, saying, okay, we'll let some of it come in, but not the vast amount that comes in today that displaces Canadian workers. And if you're talking about the cost of steel in a product, I'm going to give you an example. Because you know, everybody talks about, oh my God, the cost of steel has gone up and it's a huge problem. The gentleman from PEI is right. He has a transition period where he bid a project and the cost went up. But at the end of the day, the cost of the product that he goes in, once he bids the project now with that cost, he's fine and he's competitive because he's on the same playing field as everybody else. Steel, typical fabricated steel, is 4 times the cost of the raw steel itself. So the real extra cost is, you know, the guys is labor and all the work they do to it. So the raw steel itself going up by a couple $100 a ton while in that transition period is a problem. At the end of the day, it doesn't make the product uncompetitive. I don't know the last time the price of a car went down, all right? But the price of steel bounced up and down for decades. But you didn't see the price of a car go down because of the price of steel. Yet automotive companies will claim that, oh my God, it's killing us. You know, well, stop giving $3,000 rebates per car.
But you're talking about the long-term solution, but let me talk about the short term. In the short term, the government has come up with the program to help the steel industry. Do you appreciate those measures that are made in the short term?
Well, yes and no. It's kind of thanks for nothing because the imports are already flooding in here. So really the safeguards don't do anything except prevent even more from coming in. So while I say yes, thank you, it doesn't do any good. It's not going to increase my production and it's not going to let me open that plant up in Welland because we've already been inundated. The safeguards, all they're going to do is help stop an even further flood of steel. We've been Boy Scouts here. We need to push back.
Have you taken the... Thank you.
You're quite over your time there, and that ends our first round. Second round, we're going to start off with the Liberals again, and Mr. Fonseca, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses. Really appreciate your candor there, Mr. Zeckelman. And I wanted to ask you in regards to some of the proposals that you've put forward and how we can make some changes in terms of a quota type of a system, and also with the LNG project. I just thinking about if that would be successful, would that not trigger a WTO challenge? Some of the things that you've proposed, that you've put forward.
What a WTO challenge saying, look, the product's got to be made here in Canada? I mean, maybe, I don't know. And by the way, I'm probably one of the only people who have gone to the WTO in Geneva and spent time there. I was the first CEO who went there for 2 weeks. I lobbied and beat China at the WTO on continuous welded, circular welded pipe that came into the U.S. We beat them in 2008. So the imports from China went from 800,000 tons a year, virtually down to zero. But guess where they went? They went to Thailand, they went to Vietnam, they went to Oman, they went to the UAE, they went everywhere else. That's where China shipped their steel to circumvent the duties. That's how this game works. So when you talk about the WTO, nobody plays by the rules. And the Chinese are the worst offenders. I don't even know why they're in the WTO. They've broken every accession protocol. It's a joke.
I would
really,
like
quite frankly, when you ask me about the WTO, do you want to know what I would say? Who cares? All right? It's about Canada and the jobs here and our prosperity.
Listen, I agree with you, and you know, if one thing that puts us all on the same page is we see this Section 232 as just unfair and unjust, but it's something that we are trying to address and deal with as best we can. I know we've put in a number of support services in place, and they may be somewhat archaic, is what I've heard from you in terms of where we are today with steel. I heard that from Mr. Clark. It's almost a just-in-time. Things are happening very quickly. You talked about multiple ways to that different countries are using to circumvent, you know, kind of the rules. How do you think our enforcement, how can we, clasp down on this a lot better than we are?
Well, you need to give customs a bigger stick and more leeway. Like I said, I got piling that was coming in from China. We beat them, and they changed the HST code on imports. Same damn product. They just put a different number on it. As far as 232, listen, I know President Trump. I've dined with him several times. I know Robert Lighthizer very well. I know Navarro well. I talk with these people all the time. 232 was a tool to get you guys to the table on NAFTA. That's it. Don't think anything else. So you can get out at 232, and this can be solved literally. I could do it this afternoon. All Canada has to do, and the U.S. has agreed to two-way quotas, and this thing's over. How do I know that? I've talked to Mr. Lighthizer myself. This deal could be done this afternoon. It's very easy, all right? And it would be great for both countries. So if you want, I'm more than happy to make a phone call, but Minister Freeland's got to get on board too, and we could have this deal done this afternoon.
Well, thank you for your comments. I'm going to share a little bit of my time right now with MP Sheehan. He's got from Sault Ste. Marie, and Algoma is in his riding.
That's right, and
sorry, thank you. Algoma's a great company, and we buy a lot of steel from them, and we need them to survive.
Yeah, absolutely, and we appreciate Atlas's support. And, you know, Algoma Steel is a perfect example of the integrated steel market in North America. They make steel with Canadian steel workers. They flow it into the supply chains on both sides of the border, but they make it with iron ore from various United States. The coal comes from the United States. There's about 4 or 6 states that rely on Algoma Steel survival for, you know, those people in the transportation networks. You tweaked my interest, Barry, and I had some questions, but you mentioned a quota system. We've heard testimony on various quota systems, including Algoma had mentioned that they felt the best, because there's 1,000 scenarios around quotas, like what kind of quota it could look like. Algoma Steel had suggested a product-based quota, company-based quota system. Barry, in your mind, what kind of quota would work for the steel industry, aluminum industry in Canada?
You absolutely need a product-based quota. If you just give a country-based quota, you know, first off, it's hard to implement, and then you're going to have to go country by country by country. You just need a product-based quota. For instance, let's say there's 2 million tons of hot rolled coil brought into Canada every year. Chop it to 1 million tons. The Canadian industry is more than capable of making that up. I mean, look at the numbers and ask them and talk to them, how much more could you make? And then set the quota at that. And after that, it's who cares about what country ships it in? It's first come, first serve. And do it by quarter, so you can only bring in X amount, like 30% of the quota per quarter, so you don't flood the market in any one quarter. But that's it. Very simple. Same thing on standard pipe. You know, where I could start up that plant again, and companies like Nova Steel, who could produce more product, can make the product here and use Canadian steel. So look at standard pipe, and let's say there's 250,000 tons coming in, or 300,000 tons. Chop it back to 150 or 100,000 tons, and we'll light those plants up immediately. So it's about a product-specific quota. Cut it there, and it'll get produced domestically, and we'll be paying Canadian taxes, we'll be employing Canadian workers, we'll be consuming Canadian steel, and those steel mills will never be in trouble again.
Thank you, sir. We're going to move way over our time, and we're going to move over to Mr. Carey, the Conservatives. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you to both of you for coming and being in front of us here today as witnesses, and I'd like to talk to Mr. Zeckelman as well. You mentioned the 232s and how it related to NAFTA, and I think that's why so many people were just really discouraged when there was no resolution to this tariff thing. But you also brought up a really good point, because this is a long-term problem, and understanding the Americans had an initial strategy for this. I think we've known about it as a country since 2017, the G7 at 2017. And apparently the Americans have a strategy, and the target is China. And my understanding is these tariffs were used to stop dumping, stop diversion. Other countries kind of got ahead of it. I think there's Australia, Korea, Chile, EU, Japan have accepted some type of quota system and are working with the Americans on this global strategy to stop the long-term problem. So I do want to ask you about that. Do you think the American strategy for addressing this in a long-term basis is a good strategy, because my understanding is that's what this quota system's all about, or these tariffs, what they're putting on countries is all about.
100%. I have 15 plants in the U.S. and we're booming. I can't hire enough people in every plant. So it's been fantastic. And we're actually hoping for more as they hit these countries. Look, the quota system, what he's trying to do, China, if you look at it, in imports into the U.S. is only about 3% if you look at the raw steel numbers. But if you on direct steel imports, but on indirect steel imports, okay, indirect steel imports, there's about 35 million tons into the U.S. On indirect products made from steel, it's 55 million tons. China's 27% of that. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well,
all right. So China backdoors it through finished product. We had the same problem coming here into Canada on fabricated assemblies, and we stopped that. We put duties on those.
Well, I think, though, that, and that's kind of where I want to drill down on this, because, frankly, we've heard of some companies where the quota system, they're worried about that, because if you have a quota, especially for new entrants, it can really restrict the amount of growth and new investment. For people that are already on the ground, I can see how that solution would work for them. But it seems that the Americans were out, and it's either you're on their team doing this or you're off the team. And what really discourages me, it seems we're off the team. Canada's off the team in this regard as far as the overall strategy. And I think the challenge is now, where do we land? And I'm hopeful that we had the minister here the other day, and he seemed oblivious, and it wasn't this urgent issue that seems to be brought forward. I'm wondering if there is a deal on the quota system that's going to come out around the midterm or elections or something, because he didn't really seem to be as concerned as the businesses that are on the ground here. And I don't know how that's going to play out. That's something that, and if we do get some type of solution, I think it's going to be, people will be relieved about that. But we did take some actions, and one of the actions I'll give Minister Morneau credit for was he put this unique stamp, I think it was in May, from Canadian mills. So in other words, the Americans were asking for a unique stamp so that they knew it was actually coming from Canadian mills. Is that something that you're supportive of, or you think it's a good idea?
Well, it's a country of origin markings. I've been dealing with it for years. And country of origin markings are a state of mind. It's whether they want to enforce it or not. I've seen it enforced at the border, and then I've seen them just overlook it. But in terms of a deal, there's absolutely a deal here. But you just got to go make it. And I will tell you, I think Ms. Ramsey will tell you, I will call it as I see it. I'm not shy. Chrystia Freeland blew that. This deal could have been done months and months ago on NAFTA. I told her point blank Mexico was going to negotiate behind her back. She laughed at me. Sure enough, they did. I know what's going on. I talked to these people, and I can tell you right now, as recently as last week, Lighthizer will do a deal. We can get rid of these 232s, just agree to 2017 quotas for both countries, and leave it there.
Well, you know what? I hope you're wrong, because if we end up with that deal, it means that we could have had that a long time ago, and if that's the deal,
we could have had it a long. I'm telling you right now, we could have had it a long time ago. This is the worst negotiating I've seen. He can't stand negotiating with her because she's just not a business person. She's way out of her league.
Well, as I said, we're hearing from people on the ground. People are hurting. This is an urgent matter. And we hope that the minister is going to be taking this extremely serious, because in my community of Oshawa, we're manufacturing. And if we lose these jobs, they're not coming back. And that's
I agree with you.
Concern for that. So.
I agree with you. I'm telling you, this deal could be done this afternoon. They're waiting for it. Okay? Just like on Chapter 19 resolution, I told Minister Freeland, I told her, the sunset clause, all right, is a red herring. It was there anyways. It's a state of mind. I told her to agree to the 6 year. It was a month and a half before that. That's how long it took, and they finally did it. They have stalled and blown this big time, and our consumers and our industry in Canada is suffering because of it. I mean, they need to get off. They need to get off of it and get the deal done.
Okay, we're going to move over to Mr. Sheehan. You got the floor.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your leeway, Mr. Chair, and in taking a little more time than Peter, so I understand I'll have a shorter window now, so to keep us on track. Well, thank you very much, and again, it's such an important issue for us to continue to work on. And I think the greatest answer, or the best answer we've heard in testimony, is to get rid of all tariffs, all quotas. That would be the ideal situation, in particular because of this, how integrated our markets are. And we've heard stories about different businesses in the United States also hurting. I've traveled with both Tracy from the NDP and Randy from the Conservative Party down to the United States, and we've put that message forward that tariffs, no matter what product they are, mean increase in prices for consumers. It's a tax on Canadians and Americans, and it's not good. And we saw with the softwood lumber example, I just met with the Canadian Forest Association's president, that the average price of an American home for the middle class has went up $10,000. And that's really it's not who we are. We are both countries of free trade, as well as Mexico. So hopefully we can get down to that particular programs. So one of the questions I have is there are some other relief programs that are in place for the steel companies. Has either my friend in PEI applied for any of that particular programming? And then after I hear from him, I'll ask the Barry as well to comment on that.
Can you stop the clock there for a sec? Just I have to remind MPs, we got a couple conversations going on, and if you're going to have a conversation, maybe just kind of get away from the table a bit, because it could be interfering with what we're doing here. So go ahead, Mr. Sheehan, you got the floor again.
Yes, so I think you guys heard the question. So.
Yeah, so McDougall Steel is working with the local Prince Edward Island government, trying to navigate the different systems that we can try and get through on this.
Well, could I just make this comment, and we've been pointing this out to the companies, that over the last 3.5 months a number of programs have been developed. So if you want to contact the Ministry of Finance, we can provide you the details of the person that can get you straight to the heart of the matter and get you through the program expeditiously. Thank you.
Okay.
And Barry?
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely not. I do not want a handout from the government. I want to run our business. I don't believe that long-term that's the way to build a business. I think we need to solve the problem. So, I don't want any handouts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for shortening it up there, and we're going to go to the Conservatives. And Mr. Allison, I think you're splitting time, or you're starting off anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us here today. Barry, I just want to pursue that last line of question we had there. In terms of the deal, so I get that. We've said all along that the whole, if we dealt with that issue up front, we would have had a deal. So thank you for confirming what we always felt, even though we didn't on the ground have the direct link as you had to with Lighthouser. So talk to us about, we're 232s or safeguards are going to go into place on October 25th. Is that going to be enough for them to raise tariffs? Is that going to be enough for them to eliminate tariffs, or do we need to go past that in terms of quotas?
Yeah, so what the U.S. is very concerned about is steel backdooring through Canada and then making its way into the U.S. So I think the safeguards help. They're similar in regard to what they have in terms of 232 from foreign countries. So I think it helps keep that backdoor effect, if you will, shut. I think a stronger measure would be better. That would promote Canadian steel and, quite frankly, even U.S. steel. I'd rather import steel from the U.S. Than from Russia, into Canada. So I think those measures will help. But really what it comes down to is the quota itself. So what's on the table right now is 2017 year level shipments, with some exceptions that could be put in there for the likes of Algoma and or Stelco on Canadian slabs, which would be welcome into Canada. And if there's not a historical pattern there, I think Lighthizer would be willing to give a waiver to up that, because U.S. steel mills need those slabs as well. So the real deal here is 2017 level shipments. And I think a couple of years down the road you can revisit it from that. But I think everybody would be very happy with that in two ways. So what Canada and Mexico have asked for is 20 or 30% increases. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen. They won't do any deal with anybody that is increased shipments. They will do reduced shipments or level shipments like they've done with others, but they will not do increased shipments. Korea did a deal at 70%. Brazil did a deal at some reduced and some level, depending on the product. Canada could easily have a deal done this afternoon at 2017 levels and move on.
Okay, so safeguards of the 25th is a part measure.
Yes.
Okay, so we still need
Part.
to.
But it really doesn't, to be honest with you, I mean, they're fine, they're there. Again, it's a feel-good measure. It doesn't help us. I'll never be able to open my plant up in Welland with that there.
Okay, so what are we waiting for then? I mean, tariffs are.
I don't know.
We're being destroyed. Our SMEs are getting killed.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what we're waiting for. Someone's ego, okay? They need to get in a room and get the deal done. It's a problem. So whether Freeland picks up the phone and calls Lighthizer and says, here it is, or Morneau, the deal's available this afternoon. I'm telling you that. I know that personally.
Well, we'll make sure we raise this in question period. Maybe not this afternoon, but certainly this week. Last question, just your thoughts on, and I know that we're getting off topic, it's a wide topic, your thoughts on trade with China in terms of trade deals. I mean, I realize they're a huge market, and we're not just talking about steel here, but any advice as we embark or have conversations on the fact that we have given up our sovereignty through the USMCA on that issue, but talk to us about China.
If their mouth is moving, they're lying. They will lie. They will lie, cheat, steal. They will circumvent. They will break every rule. You will try and penalize them. They're done. I've seen it done. I've been in this business for 32 years, and I've spent tens of millions of dollars on trade cases. I've fought China from the very start. I've watched them circumvent through different countries, through different products. You know, they don't even put the right information down on import forms. We've caught them importing containers of tubing that they labeled as books. They're the worst of the worst. We've caught them shipping steel in. It's a self-certifying industry. They mark it as meeting certain specifications. I had it tested. It was half of that. Those products were going into buildings, into schools, all right? So you're talking about product that has half the strength of what they certify it to. They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They have a callous disregard for any of our rules, our safety, and our sovereignty.
Thank you.
You have 20 seconds, so you can't ask a question. You'll have to do a comment in 15 seconds.
A non-specific quota, so a total ban, like say 200 tons, whatever it is. So the U.S. right now has got a number in their head that they're going to allow come into the U.S. So the longer we delay negotiating something, that number gets smaller and smaller, what's left for Canada. Is that fair to say? So as they drag on for another year, let's say there will be nothing left for us to actually come into as far as a quota amount.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Get as much as we can as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr.
That's right.
Novak. We got enough time, I think, for the NDP to have 3 minutes. Go ahead, Ms. Ramsey.
Thank you. Am I up there? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Barry, for your testimony here today. It's very important, I think, that people hear the things that you're bringing forward. And I know, like you, I'm really worried about people's jobs. And I think that, you know, we've had a lot of great conversation today about what we need to do, and the reasons why we're not is still, I think, mind-boggling to many of us, as we have company after company come and sit before this committee and tell us they are shutting their doors for down weeks, they are laying people off, we're in a desperate situation that requires action immediately. And if there's been this deal sitting there and they haven't taken advantage of it, shame on this government for costing people their jobs and costing people their businesses, because that is what's happening right now. But I really do want to go back to the fact that if we solve this and we get some type of resolve with the U.S., we still have these issues facing us. We still have them breaking the rules. I've had my colleagues here ask questions of other businesses about what that looks like. And I wonder if you can share a little more. You gave us one example of the tubing labeled as books. I would like you to share with my colleagues the way that they're cheating the system, and just a couple of examples, and what you think CBSA needs to be able to prevent this from being dumped into our country.
Well, just first, I'd like to say that it's a shame our Prime Minister is more concerned about getting Canada high than actually keeping jobs here, all right? That's the big news today, about getting Canada high. How about having some jobs? But anyways, you know, look, they change tariff codes, they cheat on tariff codes, they have product substitution, they lie on the duty entry forms, They transship through other countries.
Yes.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And you know, we just put up with it. Again, I spent 36 months beating a piling case with China only to have them import it from India after they changed tariff codes twice on me. That's why I say it has to be a product quota, not a country, because all he did was move it to India. All right? And once we're done beating India, he'll move it to Thailand. And once we're done beating Thailand, it's 5 years down the road and $4 million, and I still haven't produced a ton of the product. So it has to be product specific, not country, if we're gonna put those quotas on. And you know, because there's just too many ways to cheat. It's whack-a-mole. And you're right. This thing needs to be dealt with today or this week and get Canadians back to work.
Thank you.
Quite a feisty day we had. Welcome.
From Essex. You knew it was going to be feisty.
Thank you, witnesses, for joining in, and we have to leave the room now. It ends today's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.